On this episode, we're going to be going over one of probably the coolest guns, in my opinion, from the World War I, World War II era. And that gun, if you haven't guessed it already by seeing the outside of this handy dandy holster, is the 1895 Nagant revolver, which is right here. I will go ahead and clear it for all you safety geeks out there. And it is clear. If you noticed, I'll go ahead and get right into the way it's constructed, because it's kind of got some little peculiarities about this gun that make it not quite like any other revolver. This isn't totally abnormal to have a side loading gate like this. What is kind of weird about it was, by the time that this gun was developed in the late 1800s, it was originally fielded in 1895. This particular type of loading and unloading system was pretty obsolete by that point in time. I mean, you had the Webley top brakes, in England, that would break open on the top and they would automatically eject all the rounds. And the Americans had already switched to the side swing out cylinders by that point in time. But this still used this side loading gate, which also, it has a clearing rod in here, and you flip to the side, and then you have to eject the rounds one at a time, which is not, as you can see, is not the most efficient way to really do such a thing. The reason for that, though, is because this gun is unique in the sense that it has a forcing cone up here, and what would happen is the design of the gun is such that when you pull the trigger, if you watch closely here, just watch the cylinder, when you pull the trigger, it will actually go forward, and it will actually meet up with the forcing cone and create a gas seal right there. You can see it even better if I just cock the hammer manually, and it moves forward at that last little bit. And it actually creates a seal between the front of the cylinder and the forcing cone. And what that does, I guess, is basically a couple of things. It actually, it makes a tighter seal, so it actually does increase the muzzle velocity of the projectile ever so slightly, but it also keeps any kind of flame or excess gas from the combustion process from exiting the sides. And it's just kind of a neat little part of this particular revolver in general. That's probably one of its biggest claims to fame. Another thing about that, since it does operate in that manner and creates that seal, these could actually be suppressed, and were suppressed. As a matter of fact, from what I read, at one time there is an example of a suppressed one at the CIA Museum in America as well, which is kind of neat. The gun itself has Bakelite grips here. It also has a lanyard loop, which is not removable, unlike some guns. This one is fixed. This one was made in 1940. If you can see there, the Tula star with the 1940. And it's in really good shape for as old of a weapon as it is. Most of these, since they were made in the orders of millions, I mean, there were well over 2 million of them actually made. These were really common up until the ban on Russian weapons, which occurred a handful of years ago. And you could have these for, $69, $79, $99 a piece for really nice examples. With the whole kit, with your holster and your cleaning rod and everything. And surplus ammo was relatively easy to find and inexpensive. But since that Russian importation ban, they've really skyrocketed in price. And sometimes I've seen them for $300 or more. And that's kind of crazy, considering they are just a surplus revolver. There were so many of them made. But at least for the foreseeable future, they are no longer being imported. So if you got your hands on one, we could get them cheap, then you did a good job. But the ammo itself is a 7.62 by 38 millimeter rimmed cartridge. It does have a rim on it there. This is some PPU ammo. If you look at the end of it there, you'll notice something kind of odd about the ammo too. The projectile is actually countersunk down into the case. Kind of almost looks like it needs to be circumcised or something. But basically, and the way that works is that works with that apparatus when the cylinder is forced forward onto the forcing cone. This actually locks in place there as well, and it just makes a really, really good gas seal, so you get the maximum velocity out of this particular round. It's a 98 grain round, which is about the same bullet grain weight as a 380 ACP, but it does have quite a bit more velocity behind it. These were carried a lot of times by officers in World War II and World War One. They made a single action only version of this as well, which, from what I understand, they issued to your common troops that were issued a firearm, or a sidearm rather. It is double single action, as you saw a moment ago. It's got about, literally, and this is no joke, single action is about a 20-pound pull on this gun. It's ridiculously heavy. I would, if you get one, you're probably not going to have that great of an accuracy unless you have just, monkey forearms or something where you're just like super, super strong. But even with the single action, it's still about a 12-pound pull. So the trigger's nothing to write home about. Let's just put it that way. This gun was eventually, they began to replace this gun with the Tokarev, the TT-33, around, right before World War II, I guess you could say. And then, of course, the Makarov was put out in the early 50s to replace the Tokarev. That's a whole nother story for a later video. Again, it's just such a cool gun. If you get a chance to check one out in person, if you haven't before, I highly recommend doing so. Most of them that I've seen are either in really, really good shape, or if not, then the price should reflect that. And you can still have them for a decent price. And there's no guarantee they're going to go up in value or anything. But like I said, at least right now, for the foreseeable future, I don't see that the Russian importation ban being lifted. So if you plan on buying one, you might as well go ahead and get one now. And I want to give you guys a quick update. The shop is still going according to plan. We do have the blessing of the ATF at this point. We're simply waiting on licensing to be issued, which should take another 2.5 weeks is what they're telling us. So with that being the case, just keep an eye on the Facebook page. Like us on Instagram as well. I usually try to keep things updated on there also. The next couple of videos are going to be some even cooler guns. This one was a neat little item I wanted to share with you guys, but the next ones coming up are going to be even cooler than this. So keep an eye out for that, and of course let us know if we can help you with anything in the meantime.